going to call the budget meeting, the first official budget meeting for the Escada School District for the 2025-2026 calendar year to order. So let's stand for the pledge.
Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for the pizza. Thanks for the pizza, Tanner.
And Denise, can you take a roll call, please?
Yes. Director Johnston.
Here.
Director Berman.
Here.
Director Walper.
Here.
Vice Chair Rydell.
Here.
Chair Wheeler. Director Lohmeyer. Director Martinez. Melanie Wagner. Here. Helena Snyder. Here. Tom McEnany.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thanks Denise. Welcome board. Board, budget. Everybody's on the budget. Sorry, we're getting started here a little bit late. It's a lean group, but the good news is we've got enough people here to have the conversations that we need to have. So Ryan, do you have anything else you want to say before we elect the presiding officer and get rolling?
I do.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Rydell, for the opportunity, and members of the Budget Committee, as well as our esteemed school board. Two things. First and foremost, I want to introduce you to the citizen in the back right now. I want to introduce Scott. Scott is soon to be our new CFO. And super thankful to have Scott come and join us for budget meeting number 1, as well as the school board meeting this evening. So deeply looking forward to that. It is May break, and obviously we have lots of school board members also with families, and using this as an opportunity to get away as well. And so that's the reasoning really for a lean and mean fighting machine tonight. But that being said, everyone's had the opportunity to look at the budget and has been briefed, as well as everyone's been briefed on the school board agendas this evening. I am very excited to have the opportunity to present the first draft of our budget, and I want to just commend Tanner Simmons for his very hard work in this process. I think that you're going to be pleased with its detail. I think when you compare our school district to other school districts in the metro area, we are doing quite well in comparison. And while many school districts are laying off tens of millions of dollars worth of people, including the implementation of furlough days, the Estacada School right now is in a position to add people, still with a healthy end fund balance, and making sure that our community's local school district is healthy financially. So I'm very excited about today. This is Tanner's third time doing this, but it's going to be his best time doing this. And so deeply excited about that as well. So just very excited to engage with everybody, and thanks all for being here tonight on a very busy Wednesday night.
Awesome. Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. All right, well, I want to preemptively thank the members of the Budget Committee that are not already on the board and have to be here for volunteering to be on the Budget Committee. It is, as you know, but just for anybody else that cares to hear it, finances and financial transparency has been a huge goal for the Escada School District over the last number of years. And so we welcome community members to be part of the Budget Committee, and I think it's important that you guys are in the know, and not just for budget season and 1 and 2 are meetings then be gone. You know, we would love for you guys to continue to stay involved in the finances and be aware of what's going on. And then having that opportunity to share that with the community as well, right? So as you guys hear things, right? No, that's not how that works. I was on the Budget Committee. I am on the Budget Committee. Let me give you just a little bit more information about how those processes go down. That was my house on Mother's Day, just so you know. So, still married.
Sounds
so
fun.
good. It wasn't with my wife. So, all right. So first things first. Really, we need to elect a presiding officer. So that would be a motion from somebody on the Budget Committee to make that. I guess it could be anybody in here, couldn't it?
It could be,
it could be.
yes.
So do we have a motion for a presiding officer?
I make a motion for Melanie Wagner, the chair.
All right. We have one motion. Do we have another nomination? I don't think you're going to get another nomination, just so you know, Melanie. No other nominations for presiding officer? Okay, so those all in favor of Melanie Wagner being the presiding officer of the Budget Committee, please raise your hand.
Motion carries.
Perfect. All right, so we're gonna pass. You are now running the meeting.
Should I, oh, yes, and then I'll go, okay, so I'll go to number 3 then, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to elect an alternate presiding officer, just in case we need to have a second meeting. So do I have any nominations for an alternate presiding officer?
I would like to nominate Tom McIntyre.
She's just quick so she doesn't get nominated.
I knew it was coming.
All right.
All
we
right,
have-
any other nominations or a second for this nomination?
I'll second if it needs it. I don't know if the second.
All right, anybody? All right, all in favor, say aye or raise your right hand. All right,
Motion
thank you.
carries.
Thank you, Tom, for being our alternate, just in case we need that.
Well, we'll see you in time if you think.
We'll see, all right. All right, next up is the budget message. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Carpenter for that presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Chair Wagner, I really appreciate this opportunity. Again, in the front of the budget packet, you will see the superintendent's message, which is in full detail. I won't read that completely at length, other than to state that I'm very pleased to start with the proposed $51 million budget to start with. That $51.8 million does include Summit Learning Charter School, which is the third largest charter school in the state of Oregon and the highest achieving academically. Very important to state. They've been a great partner, and we're just pleased with the direction that it's headed in terms of its growth and its outcomes and achievements. Of that $51.8 million, that, by the way, does reflect a $4.8 million increase, again, due to some in part growth of the charter school and some in part growth of the Estacada School District. We are expecting a 10% budget increase overall from this year to last. The other thing I want to just state is we've budgeted this specific budget about 6 months ago. Governor Tina Kotek came out with a $11.36 billion public education budget. Now, obviously, we don't get all $11.36 billion. We just get one slice of that pie, equating to $51.8 million. There was just the newest revenue package that came out as of today from Salem, Oregon, and it does appear that between 11.36 and 11.4 is where it's ultimately going to land. And I just want to again commend Tanner and the support there, because our school district conservatively budgeted at 11.36, exactly what the governor said. I know that there are some of our other school district friends that were wishfully thinking that it was going to be higher than that, and so they're going to have to make some adjustments to their budget because of that. And so I'm very proud of our ability to do that and work through that. As you kind of move through the budget, I just want to state that there are some places where Tanner's going to talk about where we're proposing we add budgetarily, and that's primarily in people. As we continue to work through the growth and capacity challenges of our school district, that's going to require us to hire additional personnel in order to keep our class sizes manageable and keep our expectations as high as they are. So with that being said, the final thing in conclusion I want to state is everything that you see in this budget today in front of you is in alignment with our strategic plan, and that's our mission, vision, and values. And we want to continue to focus on our student outcomes and student achievements. And just a spoiler alert, we're not allowed to release it yet, but we are about to announce that this is going to be the best academic year we've ever had in school district history when it comes to student achievement and scores. Our growth is off the charts right now. We're focused on our people and making sure that we're putting the most qualified and the best talented teachers and support staff in front of our children. We're committed to customer service and making sure that we're providing our community the best-in-class service that they expect. And then last but not least, we're using continuous improvement to measure each and every strategy and change agent that we put into our organization, ultimately allowing for us to continue to make adjustments when we see strategies aren't working. And that's reflected inside this budget as well. And so excited for Tanner to take it over, but that is your superintendent's message as we start this budget season.
Perfect, thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. All right, next we have the presentation of the proposed budget. I'm gonna turn it over to Tanner for that. And can I say quickly before you get started, I just want to compliment you on, I'm not sure who instituted it, but those little cover pages on each fund that gives a summary of what is in the spreadsheet behind it was incredibly helpful at being transparent, and that helped me a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's something that we wanted to implement this year to kind of give it an overview, because we recognize that if you don't work in the system every day, it's harder to understand what those lines, numbers are saying. So kind of giving you that overview allows you to get a snapshot of what we're looking at. Awesome, thank you. Thank you all for being here. As Superintendent Carpenter said earlier, this is my third go at it, and it will be the best go at it, because this has been an awesome process to work through with everybody here in the district to get everything aligned, to create a budget that benefits the community and the students of the Estacada School District. So, without further ado, we're gonna jump right in. We started the budget by looking at the revenues. On March 3rd, we got our latest fiscal year 25-26 projections from the state. This is based off I have 11.35, it's $11.36 billion budget from the state, and it's split at 49, 51, 49 in the first year, 51% in the second year. And then I will tell you now the next two bullet points, which are about high school success and student investment account. With today's news regarding for the economic forecast, these numbers might not be what they are now. These are based off of what the information we had at the time. So those can be subject to change.
Which direction?
Down. It was a fairly significant downward projection for those revenues. So, as Superintendent Carpenter also said, there are some proposed additions to the budget. One of those is 7 part-time kindergarten professionals, paraprofessionals, which is something that we implemented this year, but it was on a I want to say a smaller basis. Now we're looking to get them on a full year part-time basis. This also includes 1 FTE for the Director of Finance, 1 for the Electrical Systems Technology teacher at the high school for CTE, and then 2 high school core, 1 middle school math, 2 River Mill classroom teachers, 1 Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning, and then 0.5 FTE for grounds and custodial staff. Some other adjustments that were made, we are increasing the PERS cost for the year by $1.46 million. This is an increase. This increase is due to rising rates and the growth of our payroll. We also budgeted for a 15% liability insurance increase, and then an average of a 10% utilities increase. We also moved 0.5 FTE from the special revenue funds to the general fund, and then a couple of reductions, 2 FTE at Clackamas River, 1 FTE improvement coach, and 1 FTE executive director of operations. So a couple of these FTE balance each other out as we're kind of reshuffling those positions, those FTE. Excuse me. So some final assumptions as we finished up our revenue portion. We budgeted at a $6.4 million beginning fund balance, which would be the end fund balance of this year. We are projecting property tax revenues of $9.65 million. I learned something really cool as we were going through this. Working with somebody who's been in the business for 30 plus years, you learn a couple of really cool I don't want to say secrets, but some information. That is, you budget at a 3% increase and then a 95% collection. So you're not getting that true 3%, you're getting 3% and then 95 of that of that full. So we budgeted at that. That doesn't mean you can't get the full, that's the normal, that's best practice for budgeting for property taxes. And then local and intermediate revenues, 1.98 million, those are things from our ESD, that's miscellaneous revenues, that's rental and facilities, fees as well. So then here's a quick breakdown of the state school fund, budget at 11.36, not 11.35. And then it breaks down the total share, circled in green on the slides. Our total share of the state school fund will be at $32,929,866. A portion of that does go to the Summit, but we retain 20% of what of their state school fund. This is based off of an ADMW, which is our average daily membership weighted, of 3,775.9. They take the greater of the previous 2 years. That way, if you are showing a decline, it's easier for you to project out and budget for rather than immediately dropping. However, we are showing that an opposite trend, and we are growing. Just projected enrollment, and like it showed, like it showed on the last screen, we are indeed growing. So that's awesome news for the Estacada School District. And then it breaks it down. It kind of gives you reasoning behind why that 3,775.9 number is what it is. So every student is a 1, but specific students get a weighting for things like English learning, parenting and pregnant, students on IEPs, students in poverty. So these students are added weight, which is why we don't go based off of just the average daily membership, but what is weighted by the state of Oregon.
Tanner, one question
Yes.
while we're on this, and I hope we're okay to ask as we go through here.
Yeah, for sure.
So on that slide, so it looks like 24-25, that top ADMR number was 1909 and it went to 3310.
Yes, so when the state comes out with their projections initially, they do not break out the charter school numbers, so it's all lumped together. So below it, it does break it out, so,
Perfect, thank you.
yep. So then, total, for the entirety of the budget, we are looking at a $2.18 million increase, or 3.2% from the current fiscal year's budget. That would mean we're going from a $67.4 million total budget to a $69.56 million budget. This took into consideration everything we spoke about, the beginning fund balance, property taxes. This takes into consideration the student investment account grant, the high school success or Measure 98 grant. It also takes into account our seismic rehabilitation grant. So all those special funds that we receive through grants are included in this.
And those numbers for the Measure 98 and the SIA are still the old numbers that have not been adjusted down?
Yes,
yet?
and that's because we have not received the new projections yet. The new revenue forecast came out, and then we have not received anything as to what the allocations will be.
Any idea when that's gonna come in? Okay.
Can I interrupt for just
Absolutely.
what is gonna be the property tax increase? That's been getting questioned quite a bit for coming up. Because they're looking at what Salem is doing, which is ridiculous right now. So I'm getting, because people know that I'm on this committee, so I'm getting held to account. And that's the one main question that they're asking me, and I don't have an answer for that.
Sure. Simple enough. Property taxes will go up 3% every year, which is what the state law is. However, local Estacada residents are actually going to see their property taxes decrease because we failed our bond campaign. And so the 20-year bond that was on the books from 2000 is no longer. So you can tell your friends that they're going to see their property taxes go down,
Yeah,
as well as our struggling children.
I think I can look at the 2x4 and not hit me upside the head.
Got it.
You won't see that until the tax statements come out in November.
That's true.
And I also think it will increase, just not as much.
Correct, yeah, because the 3% will go
Not
up.
as much as
That's the
that.
max it can go up.
Yeah.
Correct,
More
Yeah.
toward the 2% or,
Yeah, and I don't know, we don't have
Don't
control
have
of
that.
that, I don't believe, yep,
and I think it's also fair to say that we are not increasing.
Right.
yes,
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
yep,
right.
We try to do that.
Because you have a set rate, right? Your
Yep.
rate
Correct.
is permanent.
that's right.
And then, just to kind of break it down, we break out the revenues by local sources, which is property taxes and things within our community. Intermediate sources, those are, revenues that we do not get from the state or the federal government, but are not property taxes. So that would be like the Clackamas ESD, apportionments. Then we do the state sources, which is the state school fund, and grants, and then federal sources, which is also grants. And then interfund transfers and beginning fund balance. So then, once we had everything sorted out for the revenues, we were able to start building out our expenditures side of things. 56% of the budget is going into instruction. Direct instruction. 33 plus 56%, so what's that? That's 89%, goes into direct instruction and the support services for instruction. So 89% of the entirety of the proposed budget is going to supporting education and education itself. The other portion of it goes into enterprise and community services, communication with the community. 5% goes into, is budgeted for facilities and acquisitions, and then 3% is budgeted to our, debt services for, our PERS bond and other debts that we, need to pay on.
So that 89% is salaries.
It's not just salaries, but a vast majority of it is salaries.
What else would it be?
The consumable supplies for, classrooms, substitutes, a big portion of it is payments to, the charter school, so, it's not a large majority of it is salaries, and I'll show you on the next slide how much of it, but it's not all salaries.
And does that support services include the busing and whatnot? That's in that
Yep.
figure as well.
Yep. That's everything from the business office to the principals to transportation, grounds and maintenance, all of it.
But even the check that we write to Summit, right, we're just saying that doesn't fit in our instruction budget, but the vast majority of that is going to their instruction
Yes,
budget, right?
absolutely.
So-
Yep.
So, I mean, there's an assumption there, but it's not just used to not help kids.
Yeah.
I think each one of those is broken down further.
Yeah.
in
Yes.
this, So you get into that detail.
Yep.
Salaries.
So, right on to salaries and benefits, we budgeted for an 8.5% increase of all total salaries and benefits for the fiscal year 25-26. This is a $2.7 million increase from the current year. We're looking at about $34.4 million in, salaries and benefits.
Does that include the new negotiations that are going on now, or?
Yes and no, so we budgeted what we thought would be our best guess at where we were gonna land. And if we finish higher or lower than that, then we'll adjust, but yes, we did wrap that in there.
Yep.
So there's union negotiations going on?
Right now, we're literally right in the middle of our teacher contract negotiations.
We just went through that.
It's pretty common. Last year, we did our classified staff, so that's cooks, custodians, bus drivers, yep. Different group,
I'm
yep.
looking at
excuse me, and then this is a, fund breakdown of everything. So Fund 100 is our general fund, Fund 200 is our special revenue funds, Fund 300 is our debt service funds, and Fund 400 is our capital improvement fund. So a vast majority of everything is funded out of the general fund, and about 46 million, out of the general fund is for instruction and support services.
Do we just, and this is a little in the weeds, sorry, but it's popping up, so that interfund transfers, I'm assuming that's, athletics, right, because they usually run in a deficit by the time the year is over.
Athletics is actually fully funded by the general fund.
Okay.
There's no, transfer out.
Okay,
But this would be something like food service, this would be our transportation replacement fund, this would be curriculum adoption, technology replacement, all of those different ones.
just need to move it to the right bucket before we spend it,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
And then the next slide is strictly for the general fund. So for the general fund, we're looking at just under $52 million in revenue. That means that we've got just under $52 million budget. This is an increase of 4.8 million or 10.19%, compared to this current fiscal year. We budgeted for an increase in property taxes of $231,110, which is at 3%, and then 95% of that increase, and then the difference. I know that's a lot of moving around there. We are projecting a $2.9 million increase in the state school fund, and then our beginning fund balance, but we budgeted an increase of $600,000 from this current fiscal year. The budget was 5.8 million, we budgeted for 6.4 million.
And that's, I know it's, that we're budgeting for, that's gonna be our end fund balance at the end of 25-26.
Yes.
Yes.
If we hit our bullseye.
If
If we hit our
yes.
bullseye, right,
Yep.
that's what we're
Yep.
saying, is, it's just, it's not really the beginning fund balance, it's the end fund balance, but the beginning balance for the next
Carry
fiscal-
over.
the
Yeah.
next year.
Yep.
And then it breaks it down, so that way we can see where we're getting a majority of our general fund monies from. And the vast majority comes from the state, through the state school fund at 64%, about 33.4 million, in total from the state. Then the second largest one is local, which is our property taxes, among other things, so it's not strictly property taxes, which is about 21% of our budget, or 10.87 million. Now we're getting into the expenses, so we are required to propose a balanced budget, so we have to balance all of our expenses with our revenues, and we see about I don't wanna make a joke, but I'm not good at math, but I'm not good at addition, I'm kidding. 58% going to instruction and 34% going to support services.
92.
Thank you. It's even on the slide too, if I
Oh,
could
it is on
read.
the slide.
Wow. 92% is going to instruction and support services for education. And then it breaks it down even further to show you where it's going. So salaries and benefits are 35% and 23% respectively, which is 58%. I can do that one pretty well. And then 30% is our purchased services. These would be our payments to the Summit Learning Charter. This would be our payments to ESS, which is our substitute contractor. Those two tend to make up a lot of the budget. And then we've got then the smaller things such as supplies and materials at 3%, other objects or dues and fees at 1%, and then transfers.
I just wanna make sure everybody understands, we're talking about payments to Summit. Does everybody understand why we're sending money or how that money is derived? I'm looking at Tom, cause you haven't been on this committee very long, so.
Saw the inquisitive look in my eye.
Or you were mad at me, one of the two, but, and
No,
so
if
I
I
just
was mad
think,
at you, you
yeah, I would know. It might be nice just to cover that again for all
Sure.
interested parties.
To put it into simple terms, the state of Oregon, allows charter schools to work as an independent schooling system. However, Oregon law requires that charter schools have to have a sponsoring public school district. And so basically what happens is the Estacada School District for about 20 years now has sponsored Summit Learning Charter. And so the state of Oregon pays charter schools just like they pay students who come to our public school. But the way that they do that is the money allocated for that school flows through us and to them. And so that's how it works. So we're basically the charter school's bank,
Right.
is a good way to say that.
And when Tanner gives the financial reports during the board
Yep.
meetings, that's how that's all
Exactly.
explained, where
Yep.
the money goes through, and then
Yep.
some of it comes back.
Exactly.
Or some of it just stays here, it never leaves, right? So the money comes in and then
Right, right.
80% of it is sent to Summit. But I
Yep.
think when we talk about paying Summit, it's like, well, we're not actually paying them.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
delivering their
Pass
portion
through.
of the
Gotcha.
state funds.
Yep.
So I just want to make
Yep.
sure that that was
In
clear.
our terms, since I work in that industry, that's called pass-through. dollars.
Pass-through.
We're,
Yep.
we're using this as a
Say
pass-through.
that again?
Pass-through dollars.
Okay,
So
pass-through.
it's passing through the district.
Okay, all right.
And we net about 2.8?
Yeah, that's
That's
about
what I
right.
remember too.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, but that's in lieu of, it's not just, cold hard profit, that's in lieu of facility rental, it's in lieu of some of our software systems and other things that we purchase the subscriptions and or the user fees to, and they have the ability to use it as well. And so the 20% isn't just us being able to take it, it's in lieu of some things that we give to them, yeah.
But it's a very good, favorable contract for the Estacada School District. when you
Yes,
look at
they've
Summit,
been a
when
great
you look at-
partner.
It sounds like.
Yep.
When you look at
And
other charter
I would
schools.
say that it is favorable now. It was not favorable 20 years ago. We took all of the risk and fronted all of the money. And now it's turned into something that's been productive, but that's just over the last 6 or 7 years, it's been productive. We were eating a lot of things early on, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And then, a portion of the expenses is budgeted as transfers, as we spoke about earlier. The district makes transfers into the food service, transportation replacement, curriculum adoption, tech replacement, turf replacement fund, and into our capital improvements. I do want to point out that we did decrease the food service, transfer as the district is looking to move to CEP next year, and the anticipation is that CEP is the state reimburses the school district for 90% of the meals and upwards to 100%, depending on the eligibility of the school district, at no cost at the family. So every student eats free, and USDA and the state of Oregon reimburses the school for it. The thought here was, we're gonna put a budget a transfer, but most school districts, recognize that they don't run in the red, they run in the black. So it's very possible that this transfer just sits here and feeds into next year's ending fund balance, so.
And I should know this, I'm sorry that I don't, but the 65,000 for turf replacement, that's up from last year, or is that the same?
I believe it's the same.
Okay.
Yep.
So it is one that we're gonna wanna look at with 2 more turf fields, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to bounce that number up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That
If
would
not
be
this
by a
year,
pretty
next year.
considerable amount, correct?
Yeah,
We'd likely have to double it, yeah.
or, yeah. Okay, cool.
And then I've got a couple slides on the student investment account and Measure 98 high school success. The estimate that we received and the budget was built off of was the Estacada School District was gonna receive approximately $2.01 million for the FY 25-26 year in SIA funds. This would help us maintain our current levels of middle school vocational program, additional paraprofessionals, portion of a vice principal, among many other, the word's escaping me. It's narratives, the narratives that we build for our grants. many of what was in place last year. So it's just maintaining our service level from last year. We didn't see an incredible bump, and we won't know what we're looking for until we get our next estimates out. Same thing with high school success. We budgeted at about $457,000, and the same thing, it just allowed us to maintain our current service level at the high school in their programs. And then, as I was going through and building this presentation, I saw at the end for last year's that questions that were asked were posted in the slideshow. So just a couple questions that I received from everybody. First question is, there is a 15% increase in insurance projected, and then this year is another 15% increase. Yes, we are projecting another 15% increase from this year to next year. And it's the information that we received from our insurance that we're gonna see a bump in rates again.
Can we shop that? That's a pretty big swing in 2 years.
For 2 years in a row.
Are we
that's
locked
what I
into
was,
pace because it's a state thing, or
That is a good question. I do not know for sure.
that's a big swing?
It's getting worse, all the way around. It would be worth investigating. I know PACE is the sole, like one that most school districts, especially our size, go to. I know that like Portland Public has their own.
They self-insure.
Yeah, they're self-insured. North Clackamas is self-insured, but the way that PACE is doing things these days, and the game is changing even as recent as last week, where they're pulling sexual harassment claims into its own like separate bucket. And so like, say for example, we pay $2 million for overall coverage. Now they're saying you pay $2 million, but then you also have to pay $2 million for sexual harassment.
Right, or like a flood insurance
Like,
type of
exactly, they're starting to like parcel out things in addition to which I'm not very happy about either. But I don't know what other options are that are out there.
I think we
But
should
some
look.
competition would probably be a good idea.
For sure, yeah,
Make them, come to the table and say, okay, we
Yeah.
can do this for you.
yep,
And I remember we looked at it, it's been years ago now.
yeah.
And it was like not even close, but it's been a
Yeah,
long time.
it
so
wasn't
it's
close.
certainly something
Actually, I
that we
think
can
it
look
was
at.
almost when Director Walper first came on, I felt like we kind of took a look at that, and we looked at like what could State Farm, or you know what I mean, like what would be
Right.
some other ones, because there's just not a lot out there. And I know when we called State Farm, we said, hey, will you insure our school district? They literally laughed out loud, like, no, not even close. So, but there's gotta be something, yeah.
Each one of our 501c3s in our org has different insurance companies, so I can research that. I can at least get them in contact with
That
you
would be
two,
great, yeah.
so that they can do some research.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
They might be bound to the state that they operate in.
right.
Uh,
Well, the thing about PACE too, just to know, like, because of how it operates, it's really just a whole bunch of school districts coming together as a consortium, which kind of creates like a pool, basically. And so our 20 million with 42 other school districts, 20 million. And then, if St. Helens is a good example, gets into really big trouble, like they just take from everyone's pool in order to do that. And so it's a weird concept.
You live and die by the sword.
Literally.
You're paying for someone
Yeah.
else's sexual
Yes.
harassment.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But if nobody has the claims, everybody's cheaper.
Then everybody's cheaper.
Yeah.
And I'd bet
Yeah.
on us before I'd bet on another school district.
Amen
so
to
I
that.
wanna look at this
Yeah,
a little closer.
amen.
And with what's going on down the Scappoose way,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's some bad news.
so we're getting the rate
So,
increase for
and
that.
Insurance companies have to, are the ones that foot the bill for something like that happening in that situation?
correct. Well, they just take
With our
from that,
premiums.
they take from that pool,
They take-
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they take from those premiums. Our deductible, which is awesome, is $10,000. So, if someone were to sue us for, I don't know, $5.6 million, the pool would take 5.5 of that or whatever, and we just have to write a $10,000 check. So there is advantage to being a part of this, but
This feels a bit like PGE where we get rate increases and
yes.
take it or leave it.
Yeah, our
And
power's
I'd like
out
to know
for,
if we have an
our
option.
power's out for 2 weeks, yet my bill is the same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or more.
You're out for 10 days and went up.
Yeah,
Go figure that
Insurance
out.
companies then will go back and file civil suits to try to retain some of what they spend too, so.
no kidding. Yeah.
Yep.
You would know that.
Yep.
You must have some experience.
Yeah,
That's a good side project I think we need to
Yep.
look at.
yeah, you got it.
Absolutely. And then the second question, PERS increase. Last year, there was money moved out of the general fund into reserve for this. Yes, the district has budgeted for the last couple of years, transfer fund into a PERS reserve fund, which is currently budgeted at 1.2 million. With this PERS increase, we are seeing about an 8% on average increase in our rates. And we did budget a $250,000 transfer out of that PERS reserve fund into the general fund in order to, help mitigate some of that if it is needed, so. Last year, there was the proposed increase, and when I was looking over last year's budget from the previous year, yes, there was a large jump, from over 4 million. This year, it's down to $2 million increase. That's because, one of our bonds is, ending on June 30th. So, there's a big portion of it that's not going to be, included in this, and then, that's offset by just about half by the increase in general fund revenues. So we're, instead of looking at a 4 million increase, we're looking at a 2 million.
Can we go back to PERS?
Yes,
I am a tier 1 PERS recipient myself at this time. And I know there's been several changes, so where does PERS stand at this point in time? What is the contribution that the employee gives versus what the school district gives, or is it all covered by school district?
yes, here we cover all of it.
All,
Yep.
because I know my pocket got picked pretty good while it was.
Yep. So is ours with PERS by $1.4 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And then a question about, some revenues, forest fees. We received some back in 23-24, haven't received any yet for 24-25. But it was about $10,000, so we didn't include it in this budget just because that's a small enough amount that there's not a lot to budget for, and, we haven't received it yet, so we can't say whether or not we're gonna receive it, this year, so. And then interfund transfers, this one, for the general fund, we budgeted for interfund transfers from our special revenue fund and our debt service fund of $350,000. That's broken down $250,000 from our PERS reserve to help offset costs, as well as our debt service for the bond that ends June 30th. If there's any leftover money in that fund, we budgeted to allow us to move that into the general fund, should there be any left, so.
And again, just from a budget standpoint, if we didn't do that now, then we would have to come back with a supplemental budget, because if it's not in the budget, we can't do it.
Correct.
And so we can budget for it, and if it doesn't happen, we're okay.
Yep.
But it just saves, it's a efficiency thing to do it
Yes.
now when we know that there's gonna be a change.
Absolutely. And that concludes my presentation of the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2025-2026.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanner. We appreciate that. Appreciate the detail, and letting us ask questions as we kind of went along. But now I'm going to open up the floor for the Budget Committee to discuss and ask any further questions that they might have, or make any requests for information.
Tanner, when do you expect to have this budget figured out as far as the dollars and cents that we're getting from the government? You're gonna need like 30 days or?
For what,
Well, we just got information from the state saying that it's dropped X amount of dollars.
so, yes, so for those two grants, I would anticipate we would get information within the next 30 days, but, I cannot say for sure. The state of Oregon does not like to communicate things very quickly when it comes to, this. I will say that our second, trying to think of the word, it's gone, speak all the words and they're all gone, right? Projection for 24-25 came in early April, and we have not gotten anything since. So It could be 30 days, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week. I cannot give you a solid answer on when we could receive those updated estimates.
We're hoping within 30 days, so.
So is-
Oftentimes, we don't have final budget until long after we have to approve the budget. right?
Correct.
So even that 11.6 million, that's the estimate at this point in time, but that's not gonna be finalized until
Yep,
well late, when
at
the,
least June 30th.
right.
Yep.
So when the session closes, so we may not have those numbers in time to approve the
Yeah.
budget, is I guess what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
that would be an
So-
amendment that we could have to make.
But to clarify that, we are gonna go ahead and approve the budget, and this sets this sets the top limits of that we can't expend over what we approve, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
And then if it turns out to be less, then you're gonna have to manage that down
Yep.
and, not exceed what you actually have, even though
Correct,
we may
yes.
have approved more.
Yes.
You may have to make cuts if it's too much of a, or would you adjust it and bring it back to the board?
We would adjust it, we budgeted 11.36, if it came in at 11.4, which would give us, just making this up, $200,000 or $300,000 additionally, we would bring that then to the board, and then they would authorize the adjustment.
And if it decreases, then you just have to work with what you have.
Yeah, then we wouldn't have to do anything other than just to stay within our confines.
Okay,
Yep,
of the actual numbers.
But there have been times when it's decreased by enough that we need to re-reflect it so that it's
Yeah.
accurate, right? So that if it
Correct.
came in, our budget was $4 million less, right? Well, that's a big change, and so it makes sense at that point in time potentially to recast the budget and do a modified budget so that we're on track with what we actually think it's gonna be as opposed to knowing that it's gonna be substantially less.
Right.
Right, okay.
And
'Cause that
this
looks like-
committee would be involved in that as well, or would that just be on you guys?
Go ahead.
As far as I know, any sort of communications regarding the budget would include the budget committee. So if we had to call, just for an example, a session in September because revenues are down and we're looking at $4 million less, then we would need to contact and open it up for public comment with the budget committee, so. But even if it did not require that, earlier in the evening, it was stated that instead of this just becoming a seasonal thing, trying to work it into where, the budget committee is, frequently briefed on the standing of the finances of the school, I think that would just be a good practice to have anyways.
We do that on a monthly basis.
not with our budget committee, although it's
Oh, right.
it's been my dream to do more with our budget committee, just to keep them in the loop. But,
Yeah.
Scott will do a really great job of that, next year.
On behalf of the budget committee, I think we all feel welcome to come to the board meetings though, too. So,
Anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Yep.
We could be here. Sounds like Tom is.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a
he is.
frequent flyer, yes.
Yep.
Thank
Well,
you,
the
Tom.
other-
Thanks
the
for
other thing that-
representing.
The other thing to take notice of is that we do have it on a monthly basis in the Board of
That's right.
Directors meeting. So you folks are more than welcome to join the meetings or watch it on YouTube or whatever and get that portion of it at least. So I think we do a really good job of letting people in the community know what we're doing with their finances.
Yes.
And this is a proof right
Yep.
here in the pudding.
Yep. Thank you.
With that vein, the only thing that would concern me is watching through YouTube or even sitting in the audience without participation, is that I sit in confusion sometimes because you're a lot smarter than I am, and I'm willing to admit that. When pouring through, I didn't have as much time as I wanted to because of family issues and whatnot, but that beside, there still is a concern out there of transparency. People don't seem to feel confident in the transparency, even though I try, I go to a school board meeting and you can listen, or go online, watch it, whatever. And they don't have the urge to do that. They just want somebody else to do it for them, but then whatever they hear, then they draw their own conclusion and,
Sure.
Yeah.
and I get a lot of that because a lot of people know that I come to the meetings all the time, or as much as I can. So my argument, if you want to debate it, bring receipts.
Absolutely.
Don't, expect me to explain everything to you when
Right.
you don't wanna listen, you know?
That's,
And knowing that, but it somehow, some way, trying to catch their attention in a way that they can go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you know?
yeah.
I think that would go a long way, because some of the people I sit down with, I can catch their attention, but as Melanie knows, I'm not the most eloquent speaker in the world.
You're doing a good job now.
But it's just apparent to me that there is a disconnect somewhere. And it's mostly in my generation, you know, we're a bunch of old farts that don't like to listen.
Hey, speak for yourself.
So, I don't know, you know, and Danny, and them, they do a great job in their communication, but it's not reaching everybody, and that's why I asked the question about the property tax increase, because they know it's coming.
Yeah.
But at least I can soften the blow some,
Right.
Yeah.
you know,
Totally.
with some of the folks. And so, I don't know, I don't have a suggestion on how to communicate that. Maybe Megan and Danny can figure that out and find a way, because they're, you know, into the social thing so much.
Yeah.
But it's trying to get the people to go on social media to find the information.
Yeah.
And,
Or listen to
And
the
I do get-
podcast.
huh?
Yeah.
Or listen to the podcast. That was
Yeah.
very informational.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very informational.
Thank you.
They're willing to poo-poo, but they're not willing to listen and gather the
Are
information.
you sure you haven't been on the school board for like 10 years? 'Cause
Yeah.
that sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna say too, is I think these graphs in here
Yeah,
that Tanner put together
and
are
I
a
told
perfect
people, I
example
said,
to
I've
show them
got
too.
stuff, you know,
Yeah.
if you wanna look
Yeah.
at it,
Yeah.
Right.
please do.
Yeah, cause here you go.
And Tom, one thing I would say is as you're having those conversations, ask them, right? What are ways that the district
Good point.
can communicate better? Because
That's a
we'll,
good point.
we'll
I've
do
done-
whatever we can, right? And I
Right.
think we're doing way more than any other school district out there.
Got no argument out of me.
And,
Yeah.
and so, but if it's not landing right, then yeah, if you can say, how would you like them to communicate this?
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
helpful for us.
I would even come and have coffee with them,
Yeah.
if
And
that's
you've
an,
told me that before.
Yep.
And I've even mentioned that, and
yeah,
that kinda gets a quizzitive look, but
yeah,
then nothing, you know.
sure.
They're not so much.
Then what do they have to
They-
complain
they
about?
say,
Yeah, right?
"Really?
Yeah.
Is he really? I said, yes. The man, if he says he'll do it,
Yeah,
I know him well enough, he'll do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanna have a sit-down conversation with him, he'll come and sit at your coffee table with you.
Dang right.
And have a conversation, but
yeah,
that aside.
yeah,
I think that it's something about finances that scares people, because if you look around the community, there are a lot of people who are willing to participate in the committees that this district puts together, and there's no question about it. But when it comes to talking finances, you guys are the, three brave souls who are here tonight to help with it, right? And I think that that's part of it, is finances are scary, and so people don't want to participate, and they want to hear it from other people, so that way they don't actually have to understand it.
That's why I bring the money to my wife, and she does what she does.
I don't even get to bring it to her. I don't even get to bring it to her. It's automatically deposited.
Well, it still goes into my hand from.
I have to beg to go on a motorcycle ride. Can I have $20?
All right, well, I think that this is a great discussion about transparency and how, I think that the school the district does
I
a
agree,
great
yeah.
job. And I appreciate you carrying that message out, because it's hard to get the message out, and sometimes just the frustrations of life, I think, gang up on people, and then, maybe the district is the brunt of that. And so if you can, your voice, I think, carries a lot of weight and can help pushing it forward. So, but are there any other questions about the budget or things that you'd like Tanner or Director Carpenter to explain on this? Do you have any questions for us? Is there anything that you don't think is in this budget, excuse me, that you had wanted to put in, felt maybe more on a conservative basis you should pull out, and would like maybe support for us to say, you know what, if you can do it, let's move
Yeah.
contingency or something and
Yeah,
do it?
no.
Or are you solid? with
Thank you
this?
for that question. No, I feel like we have really, with a fine tooth comb, gone through everywhere and moved money to the places that allows us to advance the organization in the way we want. Obviously, I do wish we had more to do the things we need to do around here. But with what we got, I'm really pleased with where we're at. Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Okay.
Does this budget, did you guys consider some of the dollars we may have to spend pending a vote tonight on a reconfiguration? Is that
Yes. Yeah,
cooked in
it's
here?
in there. So that's in the
Good
capital
question.
construction fund, and currently we have about $800,000 in there. I'm trying to carve out about 500 of that 800 for potential reconfiguration, which I think will go fast, but that's all we got.
And that's the committee that came up with some ideas on how to utilize the space that you have.
Yes, because we're over capacity in some other areas. Yep,
That gets voted on tonight.
Yep.
That gets voted on tonight.
yeah.
Okay. All right,
So you must have a bunch of information on it, or somebody does.
We got a lot of information last month and left it wide open for questions all month. and
Yep.
It's time to decide
Yep,
And we're gonna get more information tonight. right?
yep,
if we need it, yeah.
yep. Yeah, we are prepared.
Tom, one thing I'd like to say to you regarding, you're gonna see naysayers. Don't let it burden you. There are people out there that just want to be negative. And it's unfortunate, but don't let it bother you, you know?
Yeah,
I have a rock at home that helps me. I'm just involved in so much stuff,
yeah.
and I go home and my rage hits the ceiling, and the dog goes and hides, and she just sits there, it's okay.
The
So,
unfortunate thing is like the city and the school district are the closest thing to the government
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people watch TV and get excited about
That's right.
nationally. Has nothing to do with the great work going on right here, but we're the front line of the complaint department in that
Yep.
case too.
exactly, good point.
I think great things are happening here.
Director Johnston, did you have a question that you were starting to say something?
I'm okay.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any other questions before we go to public comments? All right, do we have any public in attendance who wanted to comment? Nothing? Okay. All right, well, we'll move on beyond that. All right, next on the agenda is Budget Committee deliberation. So I guess the question to you all is, are you ready to make a motion to approve this? Do you feel you have your questions answered? Do you want to meet again? I appreciate getting this ahead of time. I think that's been a great improvement over the past few years too, where we used to just get it the first night, then we really did need to meet again. But this where we've had it before, been able to ask questions. So what do you all feel?
Personally, I'm comfortable. Tanner and I had a little conversation this afternoon with, he satisfied me with the questions that I had, so, I don't see any reason, nothing from me.
I'm good.
Are all good in general consensus?
The only question I would have is just on the half FT of grounds.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if the district, if we think that that's enough to take care of all the acreage that we have.
Yeah.
I know those guys are working really hard,
Yeah,
and that was my only question that I had.
Yeah,
And
no,
if we
it's
can
a
do it, we can do
legitimate
it, that's great.
question.
I just wanted to bring it up.
yeah, it's a legitimate question. You know, for years, Scott Fish has really been doing all of the acreage by himself. Last year, we added a halftime grounds and a halftime night custodian. This halftime edition makes it to be a full-time grounds, and so we should be +1 whole to support that. And that's just the best that we could squeak out in this budget in order to make it happen.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess I have one more question for you, Tanner. Do you know, with the legislature, do they have the budget I know they're running it through Congress right now. Is part of the tax increases that they're trying to install, I have other words for it myself,
Nice job.
is that involved in their budgetary process for schools, or is that a done deal? They have the budget for that already?
It's pretty much a done deal with the money that they have. Obviously, the local property tax is what ultimately, across the state, is what funds schooling, in addition to lottery services, construction excise tax, and ballot measure 98 is the only way. So the additions that you're talking about are probably to fund other things. Yep.
But again, to be fair, they have not finalized 11.6, right?
No,
11.36.
It's
Nothing
not
is
finalized,
finalized.
but it's not
yeah,
part of what you're talking
yeah,
about.
it's different.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the proposed budget in aggregate totaling $69,562,222.74 as presented for the fiscal year 2025-26?
So moved.
Okay, I'm
Motion.
first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any final discussion on this?
Thanks for your work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Any opposed? None opposed, all right, fantastic. All right, we have a second motion to assess the taxes. So do I have a motion to approve the permanent rate assessment of $4.1476 per thousand of assessed value?
I will motion to approve the permanent rate assessment of $4.1476 per 1,000 of assessed value.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All
This
right.
is one that we haven't changed, Ryan, I don't know how long this permanent rate has been, or Tanner.
Yeah.
But this may be as we come to the end of a bond and, there's gonna be money falling off, this may be something we need to look at in the future.
Well,
of
and
increasing
the
that.
permanent rate, we don't have
Oh, we
anything.
can't change that?
You're
Nope.
talking about the local construction excise
That's the one.
tax,
Yeah.
which I think we have at $1 per whatever, and we do have the ability to raise that. I don't,
It's
it
not-
might be like 50 cents
Okay.
more, but that does.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
We
Yep,
can't,
agree,
we
that's
can't
wrong.
change this one.
Yeah.
We can't go up, but we can go down.
we're not going down.
So that when I say permanent tax rate, it is
It is
your permanent tax
Yep.
rate?
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right, so any other discussion? Okay, we had a motion, we had a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
All right, any opposed? No, all right, thank you. Then we have approved the budget, we have approved the permanent rate assessment, and I think that is all that we needed to do. So unless there's any final comments, I will adjourn the meeting. And we won't need a second meeting for this. It will go straight to the board.
Yep.
Okay?
Great job, Melanie.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right,
We'll
thank you
adjourn.
all.
Meeting adjourned. At 6:39, it looks like.
Hey.